And I click the record button and say, yo, what up? How's it going, man? How are you?
Uh, Lost on deck building right now, but trying to look back at things I've done before,
Interesting. What's got you, quote, lost? Just too much to do or stuff you're not interested in?
Just trying to find something that's different than what I've already done a ton of before,
Sure.
which is counteractive to what I just said of revisiting old stuff,
Hey, I'm
but trying
glad
to
you
get
said it.
ideas.
I'm
Trying to
glad you
get
said it.
ideas for stuff that's fun to play and can actually have legs in this format.
Sure. Sure. So, Hatsume,
So
hit me with a pitch,
yeah.
man.
Uh, Played her to a 10th place in one of the winter webcam warm-ups,
Okay.
but then she lost set 1 and I kind of abandoned her. But now with Dark Tournament and especially like Storm of Arrows, seems like she might have kind of a game plan again.
Sure. I
She
mean,
has a
Storm
lot
of
of cool
Arrows
new
is
tools.
is the best weapon attack that it's the new cannon blast, right? It's going to be the hotness. Everybody's going to be playing Storm of Arrows. It's the reason to go buy 2 of those Critical Role decks. It's just how can we abuse this? And your character that gives it a bunch of damage, it makes sense to like want to play a bunch of Storm of Arrows decks. Makes total sense to me.
I mean, I can't play all ranged weapon attacks, but I can play 10, and that seems more than enough.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
not, it clears itself.
Correct. It clears itself, and you get to be an 8-hand size character. To boot. I'm here for it. I think. I mean, you know that I'm here for it. I'm very excited to play Jester with this card. So like I get it. Uh, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what. So to finish the question, what do you need my help with?
This is basically a first draft.
Okay.
Like, it's very rough around the edges. Ratios are probably a bit off. It's more assets than I've ever played in May before,
Hmm.
and just kind of needing to know what I'm overvaluing in this list and what I'm missing.
Sure. Sure. Okay, so I think that the number one thing that I'm seeing that you're missing is just we're gonna go back. Weapon is just 4 copies of Dual Needle Lunge. This card having EX2. This card essentially being a ranged weapon in your deck is just like exceptionally good. And it's really non-committal. It's also the same zone as the big card that we're trying to play. Of it's a 3 high 5 versus a 4 high 5, and it is essentially it's pay 3 to sling your moves. And again, it's just so non-committal. You always get the momentum off of it if you want it, which is huge, right? And it's like interdimensional plant bait, right? Like you pay 3 to then hit them for 3 and then gain 1 of that back. So you actually only pay 2 if you've got the plants out. Is
I
it
don't agree.
better
I
than
just
what Needlestab is doing? I don't know,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Because I
the whole thing
guess
about that card is 5 diffs.
yeah,
Especially with Storm of Arrows coming in, playing 3 or 4 of Needlestab. I'm not sure about Cannon Blast, but playing 4 of Storm of Arrows, it's a lot of 5 diffs. So it'd probably be like a 2 or 3 of at most, is how I feel about it.
okay. The thing about this being a 5 diff is it's only really a 5 diff on turn 2 when it matters. Because after turn 2, like you'll have the resources that even if you check poorly on it, you can commit the 2 and like not care. And it clearing the progressive plus Storm of Arrows potentially clearing the progressive means that you get to just like kind of pop off. And you'll have the hand size because of box in order to feel good about that the dual needle lunge doing its thing, right? But the question is like do we just toss 2 in on top, make it a 22 attack deck so that you always feel like you have a box to go off of? This card will clear, this card can clear. Like the Storm of Arrows, an empty Storm of Arrows and an empty Dual Needle Lunge are doing very similar things, you know? So like it could just be to just play 2 more on top. How do you feel about the 4x Netgun Surprise?
That was mostly because of Storm of Arrows, because stun 2 and to clear it for Storm of Arrows to echo
Yeah.
seemed like a pretty good thing. Plus, in this format, it's harder than ever to block, I feel. And Netgun
Sure.
Surprise sets it to 1, and a lot
Yeah.
of decks are just going off of printed speed right now.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I feel.
I mean I don't hate that. I don't hate that. I was gonna say put it down to a 2 of and find something else that's like a little more aggressive, but if the idea there is like we survive and then pump a bunch of damage with Hatsume, then like we don't actually have to care about like this being just a weak 3 damage move because she just hits it. She makes it so real, you know.
Yeah.
Um.
I'm not attached to the 4 of, but I'd probably
Yeah.
play 3 of the test.
Okay.
And to answer your previous question, I think you could go up on attacks in the ratio, because with the box offsetting the ratio, it's 20 attacks and 65 in a 5-hander.
Sure.
You still need to see an attack every turn.
Yeah. Um. Sorry, doing a little looking. There is an idea of like nimble maneuver existing in the deck at some spots, depending on like what our low blocks look like. Block zone. Already got 6 low blocks. So the tactic that I'm seeing is you have a momentum, you want it in your hand, you EX this, you stack it with your thing, you draw it off of box. As like not a bad idea. Sorry, I'll fix my mic. Is that any better? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and
Lovely.
you're not static.
Incredible. And so there's that as an idea. It could also just be like you could just play Flaming Arrow as another 4 diff. It's a 5 mid for 3 with the high block. That is like I know in a previous one, instead of gouging needle, it's a 5 low for 4. We just made it Flaming Arrow because it's the ranged weapon. And like put it at like a 3-2 split. But besides that, I think like, and so like this could be down to a, you said 3 of, and we could just put Flaming Arrow in at a 1 of, and it still keeps the idea of high blocks are super important, right? There's 7 of them now, 7, 6, and then 6, 7, 8, 9 mids. And it still's that same ranged weapon if you happen to need it. Thoughts?
Just 2 different conflicting thoughts is it's basically like a piercing needle with 1 less damage that I'm hoping I can follow up with Storm of Arrows.
Sure.
So I think I'd rather try out the dual needle lunge first, but I think you're putting it in over that.
I put it in over the Netgun Surprise. But Netgun going back up to a 4 of is not a big deal. The biggest thing is like this, if this is the only thing that you've got going on your turn, a 3 mid for 3 stun 2 is still easier to block than a 5 mid for 3 without the stun 2. And so it's possible that the Flaming Arrow just still gets to make the poke happen. But by that case, why isn't this, as you said, why isn't this just a 4th copy of Piercing Needle? Right?
I think I do like the previous suggestion of the Nimble. It's called Nimble, right?
Nimble.
The attack that you discard a momentum to put on
Oh,
top of your
sure.
deck and then draw it.
Yeah. Nimble maneuvers.
That
How
one.
many are you thinking? You can do
I
that
think
1 and 1.
1 or 2 is what I was thinking.
Okay. I took out the one Netgun Surprise, put in the one Nimble maneuver, and then we'll see what happens, right? And if those ratios change, if you really like the Nimble, then it just gets to change up a bit, you know?
My thought about Nimble is it's a cute thing to do for extending a later string, but I don't know that it has a ton of value on like 2 unless it's like dual needle lunge and a nimble maneuver to dual needle lunge again into Storm of Arrows type of thing.
It also
Which
says that
sounds really cute.
if you check a card that you like, you can just pick it up with box as well, right? Or you just like guarantee your next check, right? So you can go nimble maneuvers into piercing needle and guarantee that like you know what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. Which you can also use things like def maneuvers and interdimensional plant to
Correct.
stack a face down or something on top to get that check.
Yeah. Actions, assets. Are there any?
Oh, and it's a ranged weapon. I didn't realize nimble maneuver was a ranged weapon.
Correct. Yeah, that was the big piece. Item box. Ein. No airy. It's too slow. Just trying out different things.
Kind of missed it when I was going through quickly.
Fair. I'll put it in the sideboard. I don't know if there's a spot for it in the main board just because of how many that we have.
It would most likely just go in over a T.
Yeah, that's what I would think. And so we could just do that just for whatever. I am nervous about triple plants. I get that it's good. I almost want to just drop it down to a 2 of. Because I think that like things like Ein for the bonus draw on defense is better. And when the game does go long, just discarding their hand and then blowing them out with Hatsume just seems like nuts. But yeah, I am nervous about like on turn 2 drawing double interdimensional plants. It seems very scary.
Yeah.
And so just like
I mean, if I don't draw an attack, then I'd probably just lose that game anyway. But
sure. And then foundation wise, resting up as a 4 of just because you can commit your character doesn't do anything on defense.
Correct.
Yeah. Just commit her and then commit resting.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Triple incredible display makes sense. Do you feel like you're missing any speed besides practical? Is there any speed to be given?
I mean, def maneuvers kind of. Box full of babies kind of. But I don't know that there's a bunch of reusable speed that's like practical studies.
It's committed after you mill 1. Truthfulness. Macho concealment. Perseverance is not bad. At just a 1 of. Just to get the party started, right?
Yeah. That is very true.
Yeah.
Make sure I don't just completely brick out of a turn.
Yeah.
And like, don't draw my extra 4 cards.
Yeah. Genkai's, Partners in Crime. Same thing with, I guess Leaving the Bebop is not a form, but it's also a 3/5, not a 2. I'm always going to suggest Finally Awake in decks that play def maneuvers. Especially in your deck that like flips for the bonus. Flip a foundation, commit that foundation, destroy that foundation. So much value off of the 1. Probably was more committed. Man, I just want speed, man. How do we get speed? He's still fighting. I mean, loving father seems not good. Never mind. I take it back. I take it all back. As we're looking. Yeah, man, I don't think there actually is speed that we can have. That makes me so sad. She wants speed so bad. Yeah.
I mean, it's not that you don't have it in some places.
Yeah.
Like, if you know that you're just poking and you can bait your opponent out into thinking that you're not and it's not the only thing you're playing, you can get a bunch of free damage just off committing all your box full of babies.
Oh,
Maybe
sure.
practical studies or two and you def maneuvers into it. It's a 10 speed attack. You make them do something about it or take 15.
I guess I just wanted talented baker is what I was looking for, right? That repeatable like +1 accidentally. But you also have like Needlestab as like discard your next one gets 3 speed, which is like probably just good enough, right? Like I don't know how many times you're gonna be playing 8 attacks on a turn.
Cannon Blast can just be everything into this last attack too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Piercing Needle with EX.
Yeah, besides the Urmesh's Perseverance, I didn't see anything that was like too terribly outside of the ordinary. What's this number trying to be at?
I've played this deck all the way from 56 to like 75.
Sure.
I think she's more comfortable at a higher number.
Uh-huh.
So upwards of like that number being 72, 73 should be fine.
Okay.
You just have to put more attacks in to balance it out.
Because what I want to do is I want to put double Urmesh's Perseverance in. Just because I want to be able to see it. And then take out one of something. Right? It's got to be a mid or a low. So when I look at my lows, it might just be like one resting up. Because we already have cooperation offer at the 3 of, so like 3 and 3. And there's 71. Is 71 and 22 an acceptable number?
I mean, that 71 is realistically 67.
Sure. Yeah, because he's start gone.
Yeah.
So 67 and 22 in your 5-hander. That as long as you draw one attack, you draw 100.
Yeah.
And Perseverance says that you get to... Yeah, I think this might just be it.
I'd probably personally add one more attack in.
If we added one more
list,
attack...
it would probably be Nimble Maneuver.
You want one more Nimble? It is a low and not a high, and I'm nervous about not having enough high blocks. But I am down because we're testing the card, right? Like, we want to see the card. I just wanted it to be a 4th copy of Piercing Needle.
And honestly, if I wanted more high blocks, I would probably cut the 2 Cannon Blasts and go 4x Piercing Needle and Gouging Needle.
How about we do this? We do 1 and put this at the 4. There. Now we're both happy. 23. Yeah, I mean this looks good to me. Yeah. Yeah. All right, man. Any final thoughts before I send you on your way?
It might be a while before I play this deck. I don't know if I'm going to play it on Saturday, but...
Okay. Fair.
It's something to keep an eye on, I feel like.
Yeah.
Storm of Arrows seems really strong.
That's because it is. All
right,
buddy.
Like, my biggest issue with the deck historically is just passing checks. And if I don't have progressive, it's a lot easier to pass checks.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, all I want to do is play Jester. All right, buddy. You have a good rest of your night. Thank you for showing me your awesome Mei Hatsume deck, and you have a good one, okay?
All right, you too. Thank you.
See you, buddy.